I needed air. Real air. The argument hit like a thunderclap inside the house. Voices clipping corners, patience shredding thin. Before silence could even put its boots on, I had keys in hand, jaw tight, door closed behind me. Tuesday, midweek, just after 8 p.m. The kind of night where normal people have already shut the world out, kissed their misgivings goodnight, and left the backroads to the trivia of owls and bad decisions. I drove up the canyon road just outside town. No cars behind, no headlights ahead. Just twisting pavement pressed between cliffs and shadows stacked like static. Windows down, cold wind rinsing the argument off my skin. The kind of cold that feels like a reset button, until you realize you've reset into the wrong menu. For a moment, maybe even two, I breathed like it mattered. Then, almost. Halfway up the canyon, headlights brushing curves like pale fingers. Then, something. Standing, just inside the shoulder, just inside the beam. A shape, tall, crooked, unfinished, unfiled, unnamed. No time to classify because in the same heartbeat, boom! Impact like punctuation, thrown from a mountain, with intent. Metal folding inward, frame shuddering, tires scrambling toward guardrail theology. The smell of burned rubber filling the night like something older than highways, but younger than fear itself. I heaved the wheel back. Too far. Corrected again. Not enough. And still, somehow, the car stayed on the road. The canyon did not clap. It did not gasp. It just noted. I rolled to a stop a few hundred feet downhill. Engine off, headlights still burning forward like they were too scared to blink first. I stepped out, boots pressing gravel. The car was wounded, bumper peeled inward, grille groaning quietly, radiator hissing its obituary into the cold. What I hit should be here. A deer, a dog, a rock, a reason. But there was nothing. No fur, no blood, no branches bowed, no shape left behind. Just the damage. Just the witness. Just the truth without an alibi. Then I saw it. On the hood. Centered. Balanced. Still. A tiny black dream catcher. No bigger than a coin. Hand-woven, black feathers, slight sway from the wind my car had stirred moments earlier. I picked it up gently between my fingers. Then, the canyon inhaled, paused. The air went sterile, thin, alert, and a scream exploded behind me. One single detonation of sound, high, violent, brief, like a warning label printed at full volume. My hand snapped open. The dream catcher dropped onto the dented hood with a tiny, sharp click. No magic, no curse, no talking animals. Just conclusion, just presence, just punctuation. I got back in the car and jammed the key. The engine growled reluctantly, but caught, front end whining as I forced it into motion. Down the canyon I drove. Not fast at first, then faster again. Not racing a sound this time, racing the sudden knowledge that the canyon had made a note of me. The higher I climbed, the tighter the road had felt. But descending, it felt worse. Like the canyon walls didn't rush past me, but stood still, watching me move between them. Like shapes were gathering in the dark of the rear view, though nothing ever showed itself fully. like I could feel eyes without reflection, like I was the only thing in the equation that had changed positions that night. A pressure building in the silence, a dread without shape, a weight without source, a thought that shouldn't exist unless something else had survived the collision I didn't see. No chasing sound, no footsteps, no monster reveal, just the slow, creeping understanding that if something wanted to be seen, it already would be. And the fact it didn't was the point. My pulse hammered anyway, adrenaline flickering like data corruption moving through my veins. Every curve down feeling longer than the one before. Time stretching wide, thin, elastic. Snapping back only when I hit the straightaway at the canyon floor. Streetlights finally overhead. Civilization finally back in range. Breath finally returning like someone unpaused the world. I glanced down at the crumpled bumper wobbling in the reflection. And for the first time since the argument, I felt small, for reasons that had nothing to do with family. Because family arguments echo through houses. But canyons? They pause first. Then they echo back. And sometimes the echo isn't answering you at all. Sometimes it's just saying, I saw you. I've driven highways at night for over a decade, and usually the miles just blur quiet. Caffeine, sleeping kids, the hum of tires. But the night we tried to reach family in Montana, it hit different. We left Texas at 8:46 p.m. SUV packed, my wife riding shotgun, both kids asleep behind us, blankets half slipped, soft snores rising and falling, without a clue what kind of night shift the highway had clocked in for us. It started somewhere near the Colorado-New Mexico border past Raton. Fog showed first. Thick, rolling, fast, ground-borne, swallowing visibility to nothing useful. 20 feet? 10? 5? A semi appeared too late in the beams, sideways, skidding, then folding into an awful jackknife across both lanes, the trailer groaning like steel under regret. Dead stop. No way through. A cattle trailer hooked to the accident truck, busted open. Animals scattering blind into fog soup, chaotic shadows balling into nothingness before the sound was snatched away by the mist. Then I saw movement on the shoulder, a man half crawling, jeans soaked night should have legally allowed. Gravel crunched beneath boots. I knelt down beside him, cut the ties, hand trembling once, maybe twice. He exhaled, long, shaking, relieved but still afraid. They took the driver from the wreck, he murmured. After the crash, my lungs tightened. My wife went still. The fog blanket around us felt aware, hunting without theater. I helped him up and walked back to the SUV. No questions asked, just motion agreed on without debate. We found a narrow shoulder path around the wreck, creeping past chaos and cattle silhouettes, my heart thudding slow in my ribcage, bracing for follow-up that never presented itself, which made it feel worse. By 12 minutes past our escape, real sirens finally stabbed the fog behind us, ordinary rescue arriving embarrassingly late, verifying nothing except that we were smart enough not to wait for sounds to agree on danger. We drove until 4:07 a.m., reaching Alliance, Nebraska. A stranded 24-hour truck stop glow stood firm against the creeping morning light. Proper stalls, cameras, semis parked. Ordinary logic returning slowly. I pulled into Pilot Travel Center, parking beneath harmless lights. The man sat upright now, wrists raw, shoulders knotted, exhaustion clearer than panic, but awareness still shimmering faintly in his posture. My brother has a ranch 12 miles west, he said. I handed him my phone. He typed the address. Quiet precision. No theatrics. Just survival logistics. 90 seconds later, we were rolling again, north through 385, toward the gravel turnoff he marked. I slowed, parked, unlocked the doors. He stepped out, boots heavy, breath still valid proof he was here. I nodded once. "Take care of yourself." He lifted a hand faintly. "You too." No speeches, no cryptic philosophy, just human exchange, brief, honest, unfinished. Because horror doesn't stay long enough to wrap its own conclusion when the conclusion is simply movement away from the fog's audit on whether we were all supposed to reach dawn at all. I pulled away from the turnout, gravel whispering beneath tires, sunrise finally painting harmless sky again, and the miles ahead felt explainable, ordinary, safe, which, after a night like that, felt like enough victory for all of us. Night driving doesn't hum. It waits. It listens. It studies your breath when you think no one else is awake to notice. I left the house at 11:17 p.m. No plan, just miles to outrun the argument still ringing in my skull. The highway accepted me like a lock accepting a key it didn't ask for. Quiet, indifferent, observant. At 12:03 a.m., the sign for Rancho Verde, population 289, flicked past. Paint peeling, reflective edges chipped, numbers faint like old memories. No lights, no cars, no proof of wakeful souls. The kind of town that sleeps so deeply it almost feels removed from the world. Minutes later, an unmarked rest area appeared. Gravel lot, picnic table, soda machine buzzing under a single heavy bulb that flickered slowly, methodically, like a tired eye trying not to close. Out here, lights don't flicker like warnings. They flicker like invitations. And parked far enough back to be avoidable, a station wagon. Old, faded tan, small enough to feel insignificant, but present enough to feel intentional. Someone was in the driver's seat, upright, forward-facing, unmoving, not sleeping, not fidgeting, not scrolling a glowing screen, just sitting in the silence like it already belonged to them. I drove past without interrogation, curiosity, or kindness. You don't question stillness on a road that feels like it heard you coming before your tires did. At 1:13 a.m., headlights surfaced in my mirror, slowly rolling in at a normal speed powered by abnormal patience. A dusty Jeep Grand Cherokee. No weaving lane lines, no brights, no intimidation. Just presence settled into position behind me like someone choosing the proper distance to watch, not pass by. I tapped the brakes once. Gentle, careful, normal. They slowed smoothly, calmly. The distance corrected itself quietly, like someone fully awake and proving it, which is worse than mimicry, scarier than panic. Observation without urgency is its own form of menace. The spacing resumed, perfect, unwavering, chosen. Then, at 1:22 a.m., the Jeep eased back, relaxed its attention, and disappeared from the story at a pace that felt like a decision rather than an accident. And then it was gone. The road behind me grew teeth again, the silent kind, the mental kind. At 2:47 a.m., that pressure hit my ears again. A quick internal roar, like rising too fast except my body hadn't moved. No elevation change, no speed bump, just sensation, sharp and instant. A quiet reminder that being alone can still feel watched without providing evidence. I tightened my grip on the wheel. By 3:51 a.m., the dark was uninterrupted, unapologetic, sovereign. A semi passed in the opposite direction, a normal diesel hauler, loud enough to be real, rumbling over asphalt with the comfortable imperfection of reality attached to physics. The engine sound mixed properly with bumps, compression, and downshift growl. Real. Comfortingly real. Which made the silence behind me feel improper by comparison. Then, at 3:52 a.m., headlights reappeared in my mirror again. No approach, no fade-in, just already there when I happened to glance again. A lifted truck. Ordinary branding, nothing supernatural, nothing cinematic. Just a real vehicle, sitting in position behind me at a calm cruising speed, spaced for situational awareness and silent analysis. Not rushing, not drifting, not signaling a pass, just holding pace like intent was already set, like distance wasn't earned, it was assigned. 9 long minutes passed like this. No honking, no light flashes, no overt aggression. Just a truck choosing patience over motion, observation over destination, accompaniment over explanation. And accompaniment without a reason is the darkest language the road speaks. Then it slowed, gradually, committing to a gravel spur on the right that never earned a sign, turning off with quiet confidence, then accelerating into unlit desert emptiness without negotiating narrative drama or offering storytelling courtesy. I kept driving, past morning, past reason, past relief, until daylight finally returned mortality to the road, messiness to silence, equal opportunity to physics, until tire noise was just tire noise again, and not an interrogation of breathing patterns I hadn't agreed to upload. Coffee tasted safe once the sun fully took control, but dread doesn't roar. It pauses, cabinets, observes. The road doesn't hum after midnight. It holds its breath. And sometimes, so do you. The road was unlit, empty, quiet. And the stop sign wasn't supposed to be there. My GPS still showed a straight-through road, a narrow 2-lane back road cut through open farmland. The kind your GPS pushes you onto late at night because it claims it'll save time. I'd been driving it for close to 40 minutes. The radio faded out miles back. My phone showed nothing but a blank signal bar. The pavement vibrated steadily beneath the car. Loose gravel clicked faintly under the tires. That's when I finally saw it. The stop sign didn't appear until my headlights lined up with it head-on. A single reflective marker at a T intersection, suspended in darkness. Someone was standing beside it, just off the shoulder, partially caught in the headlights, close enough to notice immediately, far enough to stay out of the lane. I eased off the gas without thinking. The closer I got, the more unsettled I felt. They wore a reflective vest, thin, inexpensive. Nothing about it suggested authority. Their hands stayed at their sides. They didn't gesture. They didn't step toward the car. They turned their head and looked straight at the windshield before I reached the sign. That was the moment my instincts took over. I rolled to a stop and held the brake. The engine idled, loud in the stillness. The person stayed exactly where they were, silent, motionless, standing right at the edge of the headlights, as if they'd chosen the distance carefully. I checked left, only tree line and open land. I checked right. The road dipped slightly and disappeared into black. That's when I noticed movement behind them, further back, near the edge of the field. Something shifted, low, controlled, intentional. I didn't hesitate. I pressed the accelerator and turned right without fully stopping. The tires complained. The headlights swept across the intersection. That's when I saw the second figure, farther back, near the tree line. Dark clothing, no reflective material, just a silhouette. They stepped away as the light reached them. In the mirror, the first person finally moved. They raised an arm, not to signal me, to signal someone else. My pulse jumped hard enough to hear it. The road tightened almost immediately. Ditches on both sides, trees closing in. Less than a minute later, headlights appeared behind me. Close. Too close. A truck, older, squared off, one headlight brighter than the other. It gained on me fast. I pushed past 60, then 70. The truck stayed glued to my bumper. High beams snapped on, then off, then on again. Not to light the road, to force a response. My phone still showed no service. The GPS recalculated. Again. The road curved left, then dropped into a long stretch between open fields. Nothing but darkness sliding past the windows. The truck closed the gap again. I could make out the grille, primer patches, a mismatched bumper, the kind of vehicle you remember because it doesn't look right. They flashed their lights once more. I held my speed. That's when the truck drifted into the opposite lane. For a second, I thought they were trying to pass. They weren't. They matched my speed, right alongside me. Blackened windows. No attempt to move ahead, just staying there. I kept my eyes forward, hands locked on the wheel, refusing to look over. Then they dropped back. My heart didn't settle, because I knew what came next. About a mile later, the road split around a farm access lane. The truck turned off. I exhaled for half a second. Headlights appeared ahead. Stopped, blocking the road. Another vehicle, parked sideways across the lane, not fully blocking it, just enough to force a decision. Headlights burned straight into my windshield. I hit the brakes and yanked the wheel, barely missing the ditch. As the car slowed, doors opened. 2 of them. Figures stepped into the light. I didn't stop. I cut the wheel and accelerated through the narrow gap between the bumper and the ditch. Something struck the side of my car. Hard. Metal scraped along metal. I didn't check the mirror. I didn't slow down until I hit a main road nearly 10 minutes later. Streetlights. Other cars. I pulled into the first open gas station and sat there shaking. The engine still running. My hands locked in place. When I finally stepped out, there was a long scrape down the passenger door. Paint transfer. At about hand height. I reported it the next day. They told me they'd heard similar complaints before. No arrests. No suspects. Nothing. I noticed the light before anything else. A phone flashlight, waving from the shoulder of the road. Slow at first, then faster, like someone trying to be seen, without stepping into traffic. It was after 2 in the morning, a rural highway that cut between fields and tree lines. No intersections for miles, no houses, just reflectors ticking past and darkness everywhere else. I was the only set of headlights on the road. I let off the gas. The light kept moving. Up, down, side to side, unsteady, uneven. Not the kind of motion you practice. As I got closer, a figure came into view near the edge of the gravel. They stood just off the shoulder, hunched slightly, one arm raised with the phone, the other tucked close to their body. I didn't pull up next to them. I stopped well back, far enough to turn around if I needed to. The car stayed in drive, foot firm on the brake. I cracked the window. Cold air pushed inside. The person started walking toward me. Not running, not limping, just walking. They kept the phone angled down, not in my face. That helped. It felt deliberate. When my headlights hit them fully, I noticed a reflective strip on their sleeve. Not a safety vest, just a cheap jacket with a stripe sewn in. They were breathing hard. "Thank God," they said. Their voice shook. I didn't answer right away. I watched their hands, watched where they looked. Their eyes kept drifting past my car, toward the road behind me. "What's going on?" I asked. "My car," they said quickly. "It's down there, in the ditch." They pointed with the phone, not toward the highway, toward a shallow slope that dropped away from the shoulder. Tall weeds, dark brush. "I need help," they said. "I can't get it out." The words came fast, too fast. "Are you hurt?" I asked. They shook their head, then paused. "It's not me," they said. It's in the car." That line stuck, because their eyes flicked to my passenger seat when they said it. "What do you mean?" I asked. They swallowed. "My kid's seat," they said. "My stuff. It's all down there." They said it carefully, like they were trying to unlock something. Not fear, responsibility. They took a step closer. I stayed where I was. "I can call for help," I said. "I can get someone out here." Their expression tightened, just for a moment. "No," they said. "No, please. My phone's almost dead." They lifted the phone slightly. The screen was bright, battery icon visible. They pointed down the slope again. "Just come look," they said. "You'll see it right away." I leaned forward and looked past them. There was nothing down there. No hazards, no reflections. The slope bent just enough that my headlights couldn't reach the bottom. "Where exactly?" I asked. "Right there," they said. "You can't see it from here. The angle's wrong." They used the word angle easily. Too easily. They shifted their feet. That's when I noticed the ground near the shoulder. The gravel wasn't smooth. It was scuffed, disturbed. More than one set of marks, like people had been standing there, waiting. I kept my voice calm. "Get in," I said. "I'll drive you to the next lit place." Their eyes widened, not with relief, with hesitation. "I can't leave it," they said. "I can't leave them." Them. I looked down the slope again and caught a brief flash of reflection. Low. Too low to be a road sign. The person kept talking, kept my attention on them. "Please," they said. "Just come down with me. It's not far." They stepped slightly to the side, clearing space, making room for me to open the door. That's when I saw their other hand. It had been hidden behind their hip, holding a set of keys. Not car keys, several keys, on a ring. The kind you carry when you expect to be out for a while. Something clicked. This wasn't the person who needed help. This was the person who got you close. I nodded slightly. "Okay," I said. "I'll pull forward and angle my lights down there." Their face relaxed instantly. Too fast. I eased forward a few feet, then turned the wheel, not toward the slope, across the shoulder behind them. The headlights swept wide and caught movement. Two shapes, maybe three, low to the ground near the ditch line. One of them flinched, not like an animal, like someone who'd just been seen. The person near my window snapped their head around. Their voice changed. "Hey," they said, sharp, not scared. I hit the gas. The tires kicked gravel as the car surged forward. In the mirror, the person stumbled back, then ran. Not away, toward the road. Another shape rose from the ditch line, fast, expecting me to stop. I didn't. I stayed on the pavement and drove straight through the space they'd tried to turn into a trap. I didn't slow down until I saw lights, a small intersection, a gas station sign. I pulled into the brightest spot and locked the doors. The engine stayed running. My hands shook as I called it in. Just the facts. A person waving a light, trying to pull drivers off the road, others waiting nearby. The next day, I drove past that stretch in daylight. I didn't stop, but I looked. There was no wrecked car, no broken glass, no fresh tracks, just a shallow slope, tall weeds, and a worn patch of gravel at the shoulder, right where someone could stand and wave a light and wait for you to do the kind thing. I was driving late, trying to finish the last stretch before home, when I saw lights come on behind me. I pulled over. 2-lane road, trees tight on both sides, no houses, no traffic. The officer walked up and told me my passenger side headlight was out completely. I told him I knew. I'd noticed it earlier, but figured I could make it home before it caused a problem. He said he understood, but since it was fully out, another stop could turn into a ticket depending on who pulled me over next. Then he said there was a station nearby with a night desk. If I stopped in and had the warning logged from a terminal, it would show I'd already been advised and was headed home to fix it. He said the system didn't always sync warnings across shifts unless they were entered that way. That made sense. I asked where it was. He gave me directions. Clear, confident. Take the next right. Stay on it until it dead ends. Can't miss it. He went back to his car. Didn't follow me. The turn came up almost immediately. The road narrowed fast. Pavement turned rough. No lines. Just headlights and trees closing in. I remember thinking it didn't feel like a road anyone used much at night, but I trusted the directions. He was a cop. Why wouldn't I? The road ended exactly where he said it would. There was a chain-link gate pulled open and a small gravel lot beyond it. The gate looked like it had been left that way on purpose. One building. Low. Concrete. Dark windows. No signage. No cruisers. One exterior light over the door that wasn't flickering, but didn't feel steady either. I rolled in and stopped. The quiet hit immediately. No bugs. No wind. No sound from inside the building. I sat there for a moment, then shut the engine off. When I stepped out, I smelled cold dirt, damp leaves, and old oil. The tree line felt close. Too close. Like the lot had been carved straight out of the woods and never widened beyond that. I walked toward the door, figuring if someone was inside, I'd hear them once I got closer. That's when I heard breathing. Not behind me, off to the side, in the trees. I stopped. At first, I thought it might be my own breathing echoing back, but then I heard it again. Slow, controlled, more than one person. I looked toward the tree line. I couldn't see faces, just darker shapes where the shadows didn't layer naturally, like people standing just far enough back to stay hidden. That's when everything else clicked. No cameras, no signs, no posted hours. Nothing that actually marked this place as a police station. A branch snapped to my left. Not loud. Close. I turned around and went straight back to my car. I didn't run. I didn't shout. I got in, started the engine, and the headlights swept the trees. That's when I saw them clearly. 3 people, maybe 4, standing still. Not approaching, not signaling, just watching. They looked like they'd been standing there long before I arrived. No uniforms. No reflective gear. I threw the car in reverse and backed out hard enough that gravel sprayed the gate. I didn't stop until I was back on the main road. I drove another 20 minutes before I saw another patrol car parked on the shoulder. I pulled over on my own. Different officer. Different car. I told him everything. The stop, the directions, the building, the people in the trees. He listened without interrupting. Then he asked me to describe the officer who gave me directions. I did. He shook his head. There was no station down that road. No substation. No overnight desk. The building used to belong to a quarry operation that shut down years ago. It was condemned. I asked him why another officer would send me there. He didn't answer that. He just told me to go straight home and not stop again that night. A few days later, I called the department and asked if they'd heard of anything like that before. The woman on the phone paused for a long time. Then she said, carefully, "Sometimes people give directions they shouldn't." That was all she'd say. I haven't taken that road since. No one ever mentioned it again. I was tired enough to miss details. That's why, when my dash lit up, ABS, traction control, battery, 3 warnings at once? I didn't trust my gut at first. It happened right when a car settled into my blind spot. Not behind me, beside me. Left rear quarter, right off the back corner. The spot where you feel a vehicle sitting there, even when you can't get a clean look at it. The highway was empty in that after midnight way. No traffic to blend into. No shoulder I wanted to stand on. Just a guardrail, black trees, and cold air outside that made the whole world feel thin. I kept my eyes forward and eased the throttle up, just a little, trying to change the spacing. The instant their headlights slid from my rear door toward my tailgate, the battery light blinked out. Traction control dropped a beat later. ABS followed. The truck still ran fine. The engine sounded normal. Then the car adjusted smoothly and drifted right back into that same dead zone. The 3 warnings popped again, quick, like a flicker. That was enough. I moved left and accelerated, clean and simple, until my rear bumper cleared their front bumper, and I could feel them fall back. The warnings didn't vanish like magic. They flickered, then settled down. I didn't test it again. I just wanted distance. But a minute later, the car eased ahead and slipped in front of me like it had been waiting for that move. That's when I got my first real look. Cracked right taillight, just enough to make the brake light glow uneven. Up ahead, a lone sign gantry washed the lanes in harsh LED light for a few seconds. I stayed directly behind them as we went under it. 3 silhouettes inside. Driver, front passenger, someone in the back. Hoods up, faces lost in shadow. Still enough that my brain didn't like it. And on the rear window, dead center, a decal caught the light cleanly. An inverted pentagram inside a circle. Crisp vinyl, straight, deliberate. Maybe it was shock value. Maybe it was a band thing. I don't know. But paired with the hoods, it stopped feeling like decoration. My dash fluttered again, those same 3 warnings, quick as an eyelid. For half a second, my hands tightened and my instincts screamed for the shoulder. Then I pictured myself standing beside my truck in that dark, with those taillights parked behind me. So I stayed in my lane. The next exit sign showed services and a flood of light. Gas, food, cameras. I signaled early and moved toward it. The car reacted immediately. 1 lane change, then another. It lined up for the same exit. That didn't prove anything. It just meant they were choosing with me. My dash lit again. ABS, traction control, battery. I took the ramp and held a steady speed. No panic brake, no shoulder stop. I drove like the only rule was, keep moving until there's light and people. Halfway down, their headlights stayed centered in my mirror. At the bottom, the ramp split. 1 lane curved toward the lit businesses, canopy lights, storefront signs, the kind of place that never fully goes dark. The other lane peeled off toward a frontage road behind the buildings, unlit, chain link, loading docks. I stayed aimed for the bright lane. At the split, the car hovered over the striped paint, positioned like it could choose either lane at the last second. For a second, it felt like they were waiting to see which way I'd go. Then the car straightened out and re-merged back onto the highway, smooth, controlled, like the exit had been optional the whole time. As their headlights angled away, my warnings flickered and dropped again. I pulled into the gas station under the canopy and parked in the brightest spot I could find. Engine running, doors locked. I sat there with my hands on the wheel, listening to my own breathing. Then I popped the hood. Cold air hit me hard. I checked the obvious, battery terminals. The negative clamp had play. Not dramatic, just enough that vibration could dip voltage and make a few systems panic. Green corrosion around the edge. Old problem. Normal problem. I grabbed the cheap wrench from the glove box and tightened it until it wouldn't budge. Then I got back in and stayed under the lights where the cameras could see me. A few minutes passed. Cars came and went. The clerk moved behind the counter. The world stayed normal. Then, a dark car rolled by outside the lot, slow on the frontage road. No headlights, just a shape moving through the edge of the canopy light. It didn't turn in. It just passed the entrance like it was checking. As it crossed the brightest spill of light, I caught the rear window. That pentagram decal flashed clean for a second, and the cracked right taillight made the red glow uneven again. Same car, same 3 silhouettes inside. Still, it kept going and disappeared behind the buildings where the frontage road dropped back into dark. I waited until another customer pulled out. Then I left right behind them. Main road, lights, people. My dash stayed calm the whole way home. And that should have been the end of it, but it wasn't, because now I knew how fast normal can turn into a situation. All it takes is a small mechanical problem and the wrong car deciding to sit beside you when the road empties out. I'm a woman, and I was in college when this happened. I'm only saying that up front because it matters. I was young, I was alone, and I didn't have that I've seen everything confidence yet. I was just trying to get from point A to point B without making it a big deal. It was the end of a long week. Papers, work, the usual. And I'd stayed later than I meant to. I was heading to my sister's place for the weekend. Not far, but far enough that it was mostly freeway, and then a stretch of road that gets pretty empty once you're out of the city lights. I'd done the route in daylight plenty of times. At night, it always felt longer. My car was nothing fancy. Older sedan, a little sun-faded. It ran fine, but it was the kind of car where every small noise makes you pay attention when you're alone. The heat worked, the radio worked, and I had just over half a tank. I remember thinking, okay, I'm good. I'll be there before it gets too late. I merged onto the freeway and settled into that late-night driving rhythm. Music low, windows up, heater on my feet. I had a coffee in the cup holder that had gone cold, but I kept sipping it anyway because it made me feel awake. It wasn't snowing or anything, just a normal cold night. Clear sky, that black kind of darkness you only get once you're out past the last of the streetlights. About 40 minutes in, traffic thinned out until it was basically me, a few semis, and the occasional headlights way off in the opposite lanes. That's when I noticed a set of headlights behind me. At first, it didn't register as anything. A car came up and stayed behind me. Normal. I was in the right lane, cruising a few miles over, not doing anything weird. Then the brights flashed. I glanced in the mirror and immediately looked away because it was blinding. My first thought was, oh great, someone forgot their brights are on. But they weren't on steady. It was like a deliberate flash, then back to normal headlights. A few seconds later, it flashed again. And this time it didn't feel like an accident. It felt like a signal. I did that quick scan you do without thinking. Check the dash, no warning lights. The car felt normal. No vibration, no pulling, nothing that screamed, tire is about to fall off. The brights flashed again. 3 quick flashes in a row. I remember my stomach dropping, not because I thought I was about to get attacked right then, but because I hate that feeling of not knowing what someone wants from you on the road. Like, are they trying to warn you? Are they mad? Are they messing with you? I slid a little farther right in my lane to give them room to pass. They didn't pass. They stayed the same distance behind me and flashed again. I turned my music off. I always do that when I'm nervous. Like silence will help me think. I said out loud, "What are you doing?" I sped up a little to see if they'd drop back. They matched me. I eased off. They matched that too. I grabbed my phone off the passenger seat and checked the battery. 18%. I felt that little stab of annoyance at myself. I'd been using it earlier and never plugged it in. My charger was somewhere in my backpack in the back seat, and I wasn't about to start digging around while I had a car behind me acting like that. I opened my map anyway. There was an exit coming up in a few miles. Not a real town, more like one of those freeway exits with a gas station, maybe a fast food place, maybe a motel. I stared at it and thought, if I have to stop, I want it to be somewhere with lights and cameras, not on the shoulder. Behind me, the brights flashed again, longer this time, like they were holding them. I moved over in my lane again, basically offering them a pass like, go around me, please. They still didn't pass. They drifted slightly left, like they were trying to be in my mirrors, then flashed again. And at that point, it was hard not to interpret it as, pull over. I called my sister, not because she could do anything, but because I needed another person in the world besides me and whoever was behind me. It rang, then went to voicemail. I called again. Voicemail again. I texted her, you up? Driving. Something weird behind me. The exit got closer. I put my blinker on early and moved into the right lane. I watched my mirror and waited for the relief of them continuing straight. They moved into the right lane too. Okay. I took the exit. They took the exit. The ramp curved down and the freeway noise faded behind us. Up ahead was that lonely strip of light in the distance, businesses sitting off the road like an island. I stayed on the main road toward the lights. The SUV stayed behind me. Close enough now that I could tell it was a bigger SUV. Dark, tinted windows. I couldn't see inside. Then it honked. Just a short honk, not road rage, more like a reminder. The brights flashed again, so I pulled into the gas station. There were a couple cars at pumps, a semi parked off to the side, cab light on. The store was lit, not busy, but not empty either. I pulled up to a pump near the front, close to the store windows. The SUV followed me in and stopped behind me. Not at a pump, not in a spot, just behind me, angled slightly. My whole body went cold. I didn't get out. I locked my doors again, even though they were probably already locked, and I watched my mirror. The driver door opened and a man got out. He didn't rush me. He walked at a normal pace with his hands down, like he was trying to look calm on purpose. He stopped a few feet from my window, far enough back that, from inside the store, it probably wouldn't look like he was cornering me. He leaned in slightly and talked through the glass like he assumed I'd just roll the window down. I shook my head. He smiled. Not friendly, more like, come on, and pointed toward the back of my car, then down at my tire. He tapped the glass lightly with one knuckle. I cracked the window maybe half an inch, just enough to hear him. Hey, he said, your rear tire's throwing sparks. You've got something caught back there. You needed to pull over. I saw it on the freeway. I stared at him. What? He nodded like I was being difficult. Rear passenger side. I was behind you. I saw it. It's scraping. You didn't feel it? No, I said. He shrugged. You might not yet, but you will. Just get out and look. I can show you. Something about the way he said show you made my skin crawl. Like I was supposed to follow him around to the back of my car and stand there with my guard down while he helped. I didn't move. I looked past him toward the store. The cashier was behind the counter, looking over. Not making a scene, just paying attention. The man followed my gaze and looked back at me. It's okay, he said. I'm just trying to help you out. I'll call someone, I said. His expression tightened for half a second, like that wasn't the response he wanted. You don't need to call anybody, he said. It'll take 2 seconds. Just hop out. I'm not getting out, I said. He let out a short laugh like I was being ridiculous. You can't drive like that. I'll have someone check it, I said, nodding toward the store. His smile went flat. He leaned in a little closer, still careful not to look aggressive to anyone watching. I'm telling you, he said, lower. It's sparking. You don't want to start a fire under your car. It sounded rehearsed, like a line. I remember thinking, How is a tire throwing sparks? It's rubber. If something metal was scraping bad enough to spark, I'd hear it. I'd feel it. None of it added up. Instead, he just kept pushing the same thing. Get out and look. And that's when it really clicked that this wasn't about my car. It was about getting me away from my locked doors. I swallowed and forced my voice to stay calm. Okay, I'm going to pull closer to the store and ask them. His eyes flicked to my hands on the steering wheel. For a second, I thought he might step forward and block my car, but he backed up, lifting his hands like, "Fine. Do what you want," he said. "I'm just trying to help." I put the car in drive and rolled forward to the front of the store where the lights were brighter and the cameras were obvious. The SUV didn't move at first. Then it rolled forward too, just enough to still be behind me. The man walked around the back of my car like he was inspecting something. He crouched by my rear passenger tire for a second. From inside the car, I couldn't see what he was doing, and that bothered me more than anything. Then he stood, looked toward the store, and went back to his SUV. He got in, and he didn't leave. He just sat there, engine running, headlights off. I tried calling 911 and it wouldn't even hold the call. No service. Then I noticed the Wi-Fi sticker on the door and went, okay, that's my move. I got out and went inside. "Do you have Wi-Fi?" "Yeah," he said. "My phone doesn't have service." He leaned forward and lowered his voice. "Are you with him?" That question hit me like a punch, because it meant it looked exactly as bad as it felt. "No," I said. "He followed me." He nodded once, like he already knew. "Password's on the door," he said. "It's free." I connected right there at the counter. My hands were shaking enough that I typed it wrong the first time. As soon as it connected, I called 911. I kept my voice as steady as I could. I gave the operator the exit number and the gas station name. I said I'd been followed off the freeway by a vehicle flashing brights. The driver tried to get me out of my car, and now he was still sitting outside. The operator asked what he said. I told her the tire spark story. There was a pause on the line that made my skin prickle. "Stay inside," she said. "Do not go back out." "Okay." She asked for a description. Dark SUV, tinted windows, a man, average build. I hated how little I could give her because I realized I hadn't really looked at him. I'd been too focused on not engaging. The cashier slid a bottle of water toward me without a word. I stood near the counter, staring out the windows like I could will the SUV to leave. Then the SUV backed out. For a split second, I felt relief. And then it didn't leave the station. It moved to the darker side lot and parked there instead, like it was repositioning where it could wait without being as visible. I told the operator, "He moved. He's still here." "Officers are on the way," she said. I asked how long. "A few minutes." A few minutes is a long time when you can see something waiting for you. Then another car pulled in. It didn't go to a pump. It rolled into the side lot where the SUV was parked. Headlights off. Parked. My mouth went dry. "There's another car," I said, quiet. "It just parked by him." The cashier muttered, "Nope," under his breath, walked to the door and locked it. The bell above the door jingled softly, and that tiny sound felt completely wrong for how big my fear suddenly got. Outside, both vehicles just sat there. Nobody got out. Nobody moved. They were waiting. And what I couldn't stop thinking was, they want me outside. Not he. They. The operator kept me talking, keeping me anchored. I watched my phone battery tick down in the corner like a timer. Finally, headlights swung into the station, a patrol car. It pulled in without lights at first. The second it turned into the lot, the SUV started moving. The other car moved too. The patrol car's lights snapped on. Both cars rolled out of the station like they were trying to leave casually, and the patrol car took off after them, lights bright now, disappearing down the road in seconds. The store went quiet like the whole building exhaled. I didn't realize I was shaking until my teeth started chattering. The operator told me to stay put. Another unit was coming to check on me. A few minutes later, a second patrol car pulled in. An officer came inside, calm and polite in that way that tells you he's trying to bring the temperature down. He asked me to tell him what happened. I told him everything. The brights, the exit, the sparks story, the way the guy parked behind me, the second car showing up. He asked if the man touched my car or made threats. No, I said. He just kept trying to get me out. The officer nodded like that was enough to understand what kind of situation it was. He said I did the right thing by choosing a lit place and going inside. He asked if I wanted to drive to my sister's place or follow him to the station to make a report. I looked outside. The lot was bright and normal again. Then I looked at my phone battery, and I realized I didn't want to be alone in my car yet, so I went to the station. I followed the officer the whole way, gripping the wheel so hard my hands hurt. Every time headlights came up behind me, my stomach flipped until I could see it was just a normal car passing. At the station, they took my statement. They were kind, but honest in that way that sits heavy in your chest. They said they'd try to find the vehicles. Sometimes they did, sometimes they didn't. One of the officers said something that stuck with me more than anything else. He said, "They wanted you stopped in the dark." Not, "That guy was weird." Not, "Maybe he was trying to help." They wanted you stopped in the dark. I made it to my sister's place close to morning. She opened the door, saw my face, and just hugged me without asking questions first. I didn't sleep. I sat on her couch with a blanket around my shoulders, replaying those bright flashes in my mirror. Because the part that still gets me is how simple it was. No chase, no dramatic moment where I fought someone, just a normal-looking SUV, a calm voice, and a story that sounded helpful enough that if you were tired and alone and trying to be polite, you might believe it. If I'd pulled over on the shoulder when the brights first started flashing, if I'd gotten out to check my tire because someone just wanted to help, I don't know what would have happened. And I think that's why it stayed with me. After that, I stopped doing late-night drives alone if I could avoid it. And if I couldn't avoid it, I kept my phone charged, I picked my stops ahead of time, and I never, ever pulled over for someone flashing their brights. Because maybe sometimes people really are trying to warn you. But that night taught me something I wish I'd learned in a nicer way. Sometimes they're not warning you. Sometimes they're trying to get you to stop. And once you do, you might not get to decide what happens next.